All right, this is Mr. Warwick. I'm here to go through this algebraic reasoning review, talk about some stuff that's going to show up on the final exam. Final exam is going to be 25 questions. It's going to be all questions that are related to these. These are previous tests, and what I've done for the final is I took the previous tests and I made them into multiple choice questions. So on the first one, what is 4 squared? That's 4 times 4. That would be 16. There are some questions like this, so make sure you understand them. A square coffee table has a side at 10 inches. What is the area? The area is going to be 10 squared, which is 100. Then on the third one, what is the square root of 32 squared? If you square the square root, it undoes what you just did. So this squared and this square root are going to cancel each other out, and it makes 32, the number that's underneath it. A window is 3 foot by 3 foot. What is the area of the window? It's square. That's a 9. Square root of 37 is between which two whole numbers? Well, 6 squared would be 36. 7 squared would be 49. Since 37 is between those, it's going to be between 6 and 7. And the square root of 11 is between which two numbers? 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. So it would be 3 and 4. Again, when you see these questions or the ones that are like them on the final exam, it will be multiple choice. So it'll give you some options there for what they're nearest between. The foul poles of the baseball field are both at 345 feet. How far would a run between them be to the nearest foot? So this is, it's a right triangle. So you have to remember the Pythagorean Theorem. That's a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So this is 345. So on the calculator, I would take 345, square it, and then add also 345 squared. And then I would take the square root of that. I'm not sure I remember this one. It's like 487 point blah, 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 I think. Which would make it 488 to the nearest foot, okay? You are not going to be given the formula for Pythagorean Theorem on the exam, so you're just going to have to kind of remember that, or hopefully remember one that's close to it. For the rest of this one, your parents install an 8-foot square pool and a 3-foot walkway all the way around it. How much area does it take up in the backyard? If it's 8 feet, and then you add 3 feet in every direction, then this is 3, this is 8, this is 3, that's going to be 14 across and up and down. So 14 squared, or 14 times 14, is going to give you 196. Television is measured around 16 by 9. What screen size class would it be? This is, again, it's a right triangle. You go 16 squared plus 9 squared. Take the square root, that'll get you. And then a classroom is 14 feet long by 10 by 8. There's not one like this on the final exam, so we won't worry about that. Create a table for this from values from -5 to 5. I did not put the tables for the quadratic equations onto the final exam, so you don't have to worry about that. On number 3, the word problem, I did not put one like this on there, but to set this up, it's 200 people go, and they're losing 5 people, and the current price is $5, and they're adding 10 cents every time they change the price. So you'd be able to multiply those, and then just pull up the table in the calculator or on Desmos and see about where it's going to be. At the same movie theater, how many people will go for the best price? Again, that's going to be, those are the same question. They're just asking for different parts of it. This one would be asking for when you multiply them together, so this would be the y value. And then on this one, it'd be the x value of the vertex. So you'd find that high point on the graph, and that'd be my answers for this one. Number 6 for the equation, whatever, does the graph open up or down? The number in front of the x squared is negative. So it goes like this. it opens down. If quadratic graph has an axis symmetry at x equals 2 and contains a point 1, 4, what other point might it contain, or must it contain? Here's 2, and that's the middle. At 1, we are at 4, and that's 1 away from center. So 1 away from center on the other side, we are also going to be up 4. So that means we have to have the point 3, 4. What would be the vertex of the graph? 3 parentheses x minus 4 squared plus 6. It's the opposite of this. So instead of a minus 4, it's a plus 4. And then it's this number, 6. There's my vertex. I think the question that's on the test is a little bit similar to that. It's not exactly that. Write a quadratic equation with a vertex at minus 2, minus 2. Remember, it's the opposite of the first one. That'd be x plus 2 squared and then minus 2.
Can you scoot it up here?
A flare is fired from the deck of a fishing boat at 15 feet. It has an upward force of 260 feet per second, and gravity comes back at negative 16 feet per second squared. What's the equation for this situation? So that's a negative 16 t squared, because that's gravity. The upward force of 260 feet per second is plus 260 t. And then the fact that it was fired off the fishing boat at 15 feet up means we add 15. When would the flare hit the water? Again, I don't have the exact answer on this one. If there is one like this on your test, it's multiple choice, so you'd be able to select it. But it's going to come from like here, go up, and come back down because gravity. So there'll be another spot where it crosses 0, like back here in the negative. The negative value is not going to make any sense for that. Only the positive value is going to matter. So you just have to look for where that graph crosses the axis. I'd say you could look at this on Desmos, but I just forgot. You're turning in Chromebooks on Tuesday. You won't have the Chromebooks for the final exam. So you really need to make sure that you can remember how to do this on the calculator, how to look at that, how to estimate that. Toy rocket goes up at 130 feet per second. Gravity is the standard negative 16 feet per second squared. When will the rocket be 50 feet in the air? It starts at 0, 0. And it's going to be a negative 16 t squared plus 130 t. So it's going to go up like this. If you're looking for when it's 50 feet in the air, it's funny, there'd actually be 2 answers. Somewhere here and somewhere here. Okay? The actual correct answer on this is not going to be super important. It's just about remembering how to do it. On the next one, I just printed off the Google form of this test, you can tell. So it's a little weird. Using the formula, calculate the braking distance of a car going 50 miles an hour. You would just put 50 in the place of V. There is going to be one like this on the final exam. But the formula is there. So you'll just have to remember how to plug that in. So make sure that you're squaring stuff, that you're putting that together. And the answer is going to be in feet, not miles. So we know that this one is not going to be the answer. The others can duke it out later. Same kind of thing. Using the formula below, calculate the braking distance of a car going 100 miles an hour. That would be 100 right here and 100 here. So you can put those together. And again, like the answer might be cut off there, but it is going to be in feet. Let's see, moving forward. Using the formula below, calculate the speed of a car that takes 100 feet to stop. Understand that on this one, when it says it takes 100 feet to stop, that's 100 over here. So this would be another one that you would want to graph. And the graph of this it's a really weird graph. It kind of goes like this and then back up. So if it takes 100 feet to stop, actually be kind of curving up like this, you would find where it crosses 100. So if you need help getting to that on the graph, on the graphing calculator, we can help you out. Remember, this would be y, this would be x, and this would be x squared when you type those in so that you can get it graphed. Rocket takes off from the ground at 230 feet per second using the formula when will it hit the ground. This is just like the other one. You are going to graph it, and out here's where it's going to hit the ground, okay? Not the 0. That's when it's taken off. So the 0 seconds doesn't make any sense. The 14.4 is probably the right answer on this one. You can find that intersection on the calculator. Again, just ask if it doesn't get you there. When would be its max height? When will it hit the ground? Again, for both of these, it's the same kind of thing. Like, they're going to give you the information. It's a negative 16t squared plus 160t. So that's going to go and take off. It'll hit the ground out here. On the next one, it's asking for the max. You can do this. It's the same equation. It's going to hit its max up here at the vertex. So you'll look at maximum value when you analyze the graph. Do make sure that you know how to do it. It's pretty important. Okay, I'm going to skip some of these other rocket ones. The anchor ones, same kind of thing, except on the anchor, that plus 100 is not your upward force. It's just where we start. So that one's actually going to go like this. Okay, on the graph, you'll want to know here. When's it going to hit the water? When is its height going to be 0? I believe on the final version of this one, on the test, in the multiple choice, I actually included like the negative. So make sure you don't pick the negative. It doesn't make sense. We just dropped the anchor and it's going to hit the water 3 seconds ago. No, that's really not how that works. The simple interest. Super important. There are questions like this on the test because we spent so long with the interest stuff. Calculate the interest over time. If you're just calculating the interest, $5,000 at 5% for 4 years would be 5,000 times 0.05 for that 5% times 4 years. And whatever you get there, that's your correct answer. But then we come down here. For each set of numbers, calculate the total amount in the account. If it still says it's using simple interest, which this whole page is, that's 5,000 times 0.04 times 5, and that will get me my interest. This is the one where I have to add back that 5,000. If I don't add back the 5,000, it's going to be wrong. But simple interest is the only place where you do that. You don't do that for compound interest. I believe I left the car loans off on the semester exam, the final exam, whatever you want to call it. If I didn't, it's a 5-year note. You'll take $20,000 times 0.05 times 5. That'll get you your interest. You'll add $20,000 to get your total. And then you'll take whatever that is and divide that by 60 months. Because in 5 years, at 12 months a year, there's 60 months, and that would be your payment. Okay? Again, if it's using that calculating simple interest, that's what's going on. Convert the following percents to decimals. I did put a couple of these on the final exam. If you got a percent and you're supposed to change it to a decimal, you move the decimal 2 places to the left. 0.198, 0.05, 0.01, 0.153. Just move the decimal over a couple to the left. On the other part, convert the following decimals to percents. You do the same thing in the opposite direction. You move that decimal 2 places, that's 7.1%. I'm moving 2 places to the right, 24.3%. This is 135%. And 9.23%. The last one, what? 1,621.6%. Calculate the interest gained at 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, 2 years, and 2 years, 6 months for an account starting with an amount of $2,500 earning 5% interest. Again, I don't think there's one like this on the final exam. That's way too much to ask for. So it'd just be like the ones on the front where you're going to calculate it once, but do understand that 18 months is a year and a half. 2 years, 6 months is 2.5 years. So especially if you're doing the 18 months, that would be my 2,500, my starting amount, times 0.05% for my interest, times 1.5 for my number of years. Okay, and this is, I think, calculate just the interest. So we would just multiply all that together, we would have our answer. It's not asking for the total amount in the account. I don't need to add the 2,500 back on there. The 9B, the compounded, it's very important to remember the compounded annually is once a year. So that's $100,000 times my 4.5%, that's 1.045. We have to put the 1 in front of this when we get our rate, and we're going to raise it to the number of years, which would be 5. Okay? You don't need to add back the money when it's compound interest. The 1 takes care of that. All right? If you don't include the 1, your calculations go terrible. If you include the 1 and then try to add the money back, it's way too much. So you got to make sure when you see that it's compound interest, you remember to set them up like this. The compounded, this is supposed to be compounded quarterly, and quarterly means 4 times per year. There is a question about compounding quarterly on the final exam, so make sure you understand that. I take my percentage and I divide it by 4 because I'm going to split this up between everything. So it ends up as 1.05% for each quarter. So this would be my, whatever, 100,000 times 1.0105. That's my 1.05%. And I put the 1 out in front of it. And this time, if it's 5 years, I'm doing that 4 times per year. So it's going to get compounded 20 times. Make sure you understand the difference between compounding just annually, compounding normally, and compounding quarterly, weekly, monthly, whatever, how you have to split that up. There is a couple of questions about depreciation on the final exam. Make sure you understand that. You don't multiply by the percent that you are depreciating. You multiply by the percent that you keep. So the Honda Accord is losing 7%. I'm going to multiply by 0.93. The Escalade is losing 14%. I subtract that from 100. That's 0.86. The Ford Mustang is appreciating at 3%. That's 1.03. I add my 3%. How much money will the Ram be worth? The Ram is losing 15. That's 0.85. Okay? All of them are 10 years, so it's raised to the 10th on every single one of them. And then you just put the starting amount. So here's 25,000. Here's 40,000 for the Escalade. The Mustang, 20,000. The Dodge Ram, 18,000. Okay? Make sure you understand how to work those out, why you multiply by what you keep, that kind of thing. Closing in on the end, the matrix test, this is the one we took the other day. It's all about make sure that you understand what's going on with a matrix. The dimensions of the matrix are always rows by columns. So this one here has 1, 2, 3 rows going across and 1, 2 columns going down. So that's a 3 by 2. If you add the two matrices, what's the value of 3, 2? That would be the third row, the second column. 74 and 17 is what I would add, so that would be 91. If you add the two matrices, what's the value of 1, 1? Well, when I put them together, it's the first one and the first one. That would be 66. Can you multiply a matrix? 3 by 2 with a 2 by 3. I think the answer on this one is yes. I think a lot of people miss this because they were thinking add, If they don't have the same dimensions, you cannot add them. But you can multiply a 3 by 2 matrix and a 2 by 3 matrix. Remember that matrix button on the calculator is right by the number 9. That key is right there, so you should be able to use that. Bless you. Some other matrices. What are the dimensions of this one? 2 by 2. Bless you again. Can you add a 2 by 2 with another 2 by 2? Yes, you can. Can you add a 3 by 2 and a 2 by 3? You definitely cannot. If you multiply this matrix by 3, what is the new value of 2, 2? 2, 2 is right here. If you multiply that by 3, it's 15. Okay. Again, there are some matrix questions. It's the last test that we did, so that's the last one that's going to show up on the final. Okay. Make sure you do get this finished up. It's worth up to 30% of your final exam grade, which again, we went over that math in class, but if you missed it, you could fail the test all the way down to like a 56, I think. And if you have done and you turned in the review, your grade would go up to passing. So it can be a big tool for those of you that really need to pass this test to move on.